Hello and welcome to the Death Metal Cast, the only show on the internet that has death in it.
Us.
That can't be true.
Sure.
It's just Ben
Uh,
today.
Yeah, it's just me today. Hi.
We're the voices in
I'm
his
Ben,
head.
voice of Wiz and face of this show right now and forever. I'm joined by the voice of Chad, the voice of Liam, and the voice of Sam.
Hi.
Yeah.
That didn't work, but you did it.
Oh, and the faces are here too. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Death Metal Cast. If you guys were at our last stream, which was our fireside chat for members, you might have seen an awkward ending to that. And that is because, as I mentioned at the beginning of it, here in Texas, we were having a bit of an ice storm, which for us is like not snow or anything. It's just there's just ice. That's it. But it destroys everything here because Texas has no idea what to do with ice. Yeah, my power went out near the end of that stream, which is why I just disappeared.
Texas is a relative modern shithole in a lot of ways. It is wild, like how we were like, hey, it might freeze this weekend. Let's fill up all bathtubs with water so we can still flush the toilet. Like that's just some Texan shit. Like it's not even like it's not going to go -20. No, it's just going to be 32 for 2 days. And the whole place is fucked.
Yeah, and all of our trees exploded. That was fun.
Yeah. And like it didn't even snow, it just got icy. And like one of our storyboard artists is like, they expect his power to get turned on next Sunday.
Yep.
Like,
oh my god, that's insane.
Fucking insane how mediocre Texas is at being like a place that handles cold. Or really like most things.
Yeah. That was the first thing I did was I thought, okay, I'm not going to have a repeat of 2021. So I filled up my tub immediately with water.
So stupid.
Which was, yeah.
I started filling up jugs and cups and things because I was like, I'm never tasting stale boiled water ever again. Like, I just never.
Yeah. It was a time. So I was out for, I think about almost 100 hours without power. There was a point on Friday when I got a text that was like, crews have been assigned to your place. I was like, great. And then the power came back for like 5 minutes and then it was gone again. And then it didn't come back for another 2 days.
Would have been better if they just hadn't done it, right? Like at that point, just don't even give me hope.
It's like this horrible false hope.
Yeah. What did you do for the 100 hours?
I left after the first night. I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm not, because fortunately, unlike in 2021, the roads are not icy. Like, it got warm pretty quick.
During the day, it was above
like
freezing. It just dropped below freezing at night. It was like not bad at all.
So it was just the 30s, but the entire power grid, like, well, not the entire, but like power
wasn't
went
the
out.
grid this time.
That's crazy. Oh,
the grid was the problem in 2021. This time it was ice freezing and messing with our power lines.
Trees fall on power lines and shit.
So people were asking, speaking of which, we were asking about the tree thing. So here's what happened. Like you're mentioning, it's warm enough in the day that then we're getting rain, and then it cools down and freezes, and there's ice on the trees, and then the next day it rains more, and then that freezes on top. So then they get so overloaded with ice that they start bending all the way down, and then they just start like from the weight of all the ice, like they're ripping limbs, splitting trees in half. Like it looks like a tornado went through my neighborhood. Like there's debris, like tree limbs everywhere. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
one huge tree was split all the way down the middle. It's crazy.
Texas does not bury power lines, so pretty much all of it is above ground. So perfect targets for tree branches and just shit flying through the air. So that is what we've been dealing with for the past week. How are you guys? If anybody watching this was in Texas, especially in Austin, which got hit really bad. I know a few other places in Texas got hit pretty bad, but Austin was just had no idea what to do. It still doesn't, apparently. There's still plenty of people without power, which sucks. But if anybody here has been going through that, we sympathize quite strongly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I
but
don't.
well,
Yeah,
Liam's
thank
Yeah, you were
listening
you were
now.
mad because you didn't get snow the other day.
I know. I'm pissed. God damn it.
When a bunch of us finally got power back and we're doing our like weekly meeting and we're all like, man, the ice is terrible, blah blah blah. And Liam chimes in, I didn't get any snow.
I didn't
That
get any
sucks.
fucking snow. I'm being snow
tough.
cuckolded. I want my damn
Everybody's having the
snow.
worst time, but
So bad,
I didn't
Liam.
get any snow. Oh,
It's
that's
New York
terrible.
in the winter. I want my white Christmas. God damn it.
Yeah. Then
all
you-
right.
And the people looting HEB dumpsters because they had to throw out a bunch of food, and then like people breaking into shit. It's wild. It's like the end times when Texas
Yeah.
freezes.
That's what happened to me. Was
It's
my
like-
storage unit got broken into because they didn't have cameras because all the power was out. So they were just people
God.
that were just fucking just boop, opening up lockers, getting shit, which is just absolutely
Jeez.
insane. But
It's like Storage Wars, but free.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's more so you just gotta see how many you can hit before anyone notices, which is apparently plenty. But
Oh man, that sucks.
yeah,
that
you know what
sucks.
happens.
No.
That's why I'm drinking at 3 on a Tuesday.
Got a nice
hey,
Cuba Libre there.
everybody,
No.
thank you for joining us. Members, thank you for joining us and joining in the live chat. Great to see all these badges going up. We are of course keeping track of the chat. Go ahead and chime in. I see a lot of people agreeing with you, Liam. On your side, where's my
Yeah.
snow?
What
I
the
also
fuck?
I
I love
guess-
snow.
I love snow. I just want like a big fucking layer of powdery white ass snow. And I
It
can
is
take
nice,
pictures
Although
of the
Wait.
street and be like, I love this. I'm so happy to be
the
alive.
snow is nice.
No, I get fucking nothing. It was 22 degrees this weekend. It was fucking it was so cold, but there was no rain. And it was like, okay, well, we're gonna get rain eventually. And then Monday, it jumps to like 50 degrees. And I'm like, I missed the window. And it's only gonna rain this week because it rains once every week. But it's not gonna be cold enough. This is bullshit. I hate it. I did not do it. I did not.
Okay.
What?
Just the room reference.
Where
It's
did
just-
did you do?
He
'Cause, like, 'cause he
accidentally
goes,
accented
it's-
himself,
it's
so he stayed in the
bullshit.
space. He's a true method actor.
It's bullshit. I did not do it. That's what cued me into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're here to actually.
That's
talk,
it for me
though,
today.
About stuff. Well, no,
all
you
right,
have
thanks.
to. We have
Well,
to
Liam,
do
no,
a
yeah.
thing, Liam. Again,
You do have to stick around because you are one of the representatives this week.
Yeah.
We are doing.
No, you're doing
2
it.
weeks in a row.
Yes, 2 weeks in a row. We got Liam versus Sam.
Yeah.
But this time we're doing a matchup that if I recall correctly, you guys were really interested
Amped
in doing
about.
this one. Yeah. We are specifically jumping into what are the game's titles? Ori and the Blind Forest and Hollow Knight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
Ori has
Ori-
2 games, but yeah.
Yeah, Ori versus the Knights. This was one of the matchups that I believe made it to our champion ballot.
Yeah.
For the votes that you guys submitted for episodes.
Speaking of
for this
champions,
upcoming
Gelatin
season.
Man just gifted 5 Death Battle memberships.
Oh.
So thank
Oh,
you,
Whoa!
Gelatin
Man,
Man.
thank you.
Gelatin Man.
If you're watching,
also-
well, you just
Man
Jordan
of
as well.
Gelatin, Heart of Gold.
Yeah, Jordan also tossed one out. You guys just got gifted. You can now speak and chat. Enjoy your badge. Go check out all the new cool content we have on the membership tab that you now have access to.
Tommy Wiseau versus Uwe Boll. That's kind of fun.
Oh, that's good.
Uwe
Uwe Boll
God, I-
beats the shit out of
That's a
people.
name
He has,
I've
like,
not heard in a
Wait,
long time.
Bull literally
into
challenges
boxing
critics to like a
matches.
boxing match, right? To beat
Yeah,
the shit
and
out
he's
of
like
him.
Yeah.
he's like an actual
He's-
like amateur boxer.
Yeah.
And he
He's got
beats the fuck
cocaine
out of him.
strength too, so that's a real come up.
this big German dude that just like goes to town.
All right, so Liam, you are going to be
Yeah.
arguing for the Knight.
Yes.
Right? I got that right? Okay.
Yes.
And Sam, you will be arguing for the Ori?
Yeah,
Just Ori.
Just Ori.
Ori is a game that I keep meaning to
Oreo.
like play at some point, and then it just got further and further down my list of
Yeah.
needing to play. And
I would
the list is way too
say-
big now.
I would say, well, okay, let me go on 2 tiny tangents, right, really quick.
Yeah.
'Cause, Hollow Knight, one of the best
Games.
indie games or just games really in general,
Yeah.
period, in a really long time. Ori, I always heard was like up in its caliber, but never played it. So very recently, I played the first one, and just last week I played the second one because I knew we were gonna do this.
Oh wow.
And as far as like Metroidvania, definitely one of my favorite genres. They are both very good. I will go ahead and say that Hollow Knight is a better game, and it's very good. Ori, I will say, has like one of my friends was like, man, Ori 2 is like it really hits hard. It's got a really emotional storyline for a game that you don't think can like really hold up like to that like level of it, right? And like, he was like the ending tough, and I was like, I was watching the ending because I beat it, and I was like, this isn't that bad. And then like it kind of has like small animation panels to tell the story, right? It's not like full animation, but there's like one of the last ones, and I was like, oh god, I'm gonna cry. Like it's a very good game.
Do you think about what
Hollow
it would be
Knight-
like to not have hands and like this
No,
to finish the game?
Yeah, no. Another indie game thing, because Liam asked earlier if I was drinking Cuba Libre. I'm not. I am drinking a drink that, fun fact, is inspired by one of Liam and I's favorite games of the last decade, Disco Elysium. There's a really good YouTube guy called How to
Booms.
Drink that makes a lot of drinks from
Yeah.
video games and stuff. And
Yeah.
he did an episode on Disco Elysium, and he made this drink called a Sunset Parabellum, which is a thing that Ken Kitsurugi says it's like a thing. Anyways, it's a very good drink. I've been
Oh.
obsessed with it the last few weeks and
That's
drinking them. It's
awesome.
very good.
Way
Little
to tie it into
scotchy. I love
content.
it. But yeah,
Elysium is a good ass game.
if we ever have two bartenders on Death Battle Cast, that Greg from How to Drink, that's who I'm gonna hit up. No,
Yeah.
like fighting,
I'm
not
shit.
us.
Oh.
We've both been bartenders, Liam. That's not what I'm talking
Technically, we
about.
do have two bartenders right now.
Yeah, no. But anyways,
I want to
yeah.
add on to what Sam was saying. Hollow Knight fucking owns. It's so good. It just has a great, like, its aesthetic is brilliant. Its world is so unique and cool. And it's just kind of like a fundamentally like really good Metroidvania.
Yeah.
With a Dark Soulsy. I think it's one of the best games that is obviously inspired heavily by Dark Souls, not just in gameplay but in like tone. And I think it's probably the best of the 2D Souls likes. It's weird to call it a Souls like. It really is more of a Metroidvania, but you can't deny that if Dark Souls didn't exist, Hollow Knight wouldn't exist in the same way either. It's very clearly,
Yeah,
inspired
it
by
is
it.
very inspired by, and that,
Yeah.
that is one thing I would say. I think personally, I like Hollow Knight quite a bit more. Like they're both very good games, but I like Hollow
Yeah.
Knight quite a bit more, and I think a lot of that is due to the fact that it is a game where part of its core like gameplay is the challenge it offers. Whereas
Yeah.
Ori, not to say that it's without challenge, but it's very, very forgiving on like checkpoints. Like you never lose any significant
Hollow Knight
progress
is
that's more
brutal.
than like
And
60
indie
seconds.
platformers for different types of audiences.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and nothing wrong with it. It's just like I really enjoy
Depending on what
challenging
kind
games.
of platformer
so
you're looking for,
Yeah.
combat, you'll
Yeah.
like one more than the
Honestly,
other.
the biggest
I did want to
complaint-
cover something Falco versus Leon is asking in the chat. Isn't the Hollow Knight an actual bug? Could Ori just step on him? Is that the case? Is the knight a bug?
So real quick, Jordan
Well,
gifted
Mike?
out another membership. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jordan. Mike, could you bring up that image that I shared with you? So they are bugs, but they are not bug-sized. Because there are actual bug-sized bugs in the world of Hollow Knight that are much smaller and like properly bug-sized compared to them.
How do you know
can
those
say
aren't just like
that.
super tiny bugs?
Well,
you can talk about that, right? Like, yeah, but that's also in the real world. That does look like a beetle picking up a small ant. That's like pretty huge scale here.
that would
Like-
not be to scale. An ant is not that much. Is not
Okay.
that much smaller. than a
Okay,
beetle.
sounds like this
Okay.
is a larger conversation, so we might get into it. Maybe we'll just equalize their size. Maybe not.
I'll say this:
We'll get
like,
into it.
if he is
that-
smaller, that's not a good thing. That's
What
an
is it-
advantage
what
for
it-
the knight. If he's
like
Ori?
a
that
praying
smaller.
mantis to a gnat. That is that
Yeah.
picture. Like that is
Yeah.
that is what it is. There are bugs
There
that
are
are
different size
sizes.
bugs.
Yes.
I know, but that different? I don't know.
Okay, so here's how this is gonna work. Liam is gonna be repping the knight. Sam is gonna be repping Ori. It is their job to convince the jury to vote for their respective character through any means necessary. The jury consists of 3 seats: myself, Chad, and you all watching live in the chat. A poll will be up near the end of the episode, near the end of the cast, and you can vote on who should win. But as always, this isn't a courtroom. If you guys want to chime in on anything in the chat, please do so. We'll be keeping an eye on chat throughout this entire discussion. All right, so let's begin with opening statements. Liam, start with you and the knight.
The knight is an incredibly powerful warrior, and is very interestingly that it's an interesting that the themes between these two that connects them is light versus darkness, because the knight is almost especially designed to take on a character with light-based powers like Ori. He's significantly more powerful. He's significantly faster. He has a wider variety of abilities, and his unique nature as a void being makes him basically impossible for Ori to kill him, at least in a traditional way. He has a lot more versatility that he'll be able to take advantage of in a fight against Ori. And I'm like blanking on. Hang on, look at my notes here for a second. Oh my gosh, no, sign back in. Yeah, I don't know. I basically said it.
Nerd.
I basically said it. I just more versatile, faster, stronger, tougher, all that good stuff.
All right, overtime.
And the game's better. Ha! No.
Wow.
The game,
okay,
I think the game is better.
The game is
I
better.
played Ori for a few minutes.
All right, Sam. Are you prepared? Go ahead.
I'm pretty prepared. I think I
have
just played the
notes.
game, so I
I'm
think
pretty
I'm okay.
prepared.
I'm going
All right,
off the
go
cuff.
for it.
Ori is like the size of a cat. He's fighting a bug. This is like that's most of it here, right? So let's past this though. In the same way, you can say the knight is based like or set up to fight the light. Literally, the whole story of Ori is the light setting up to fight the darkness. Like, and guess what? He does a good job. Like, so I don't know if there's a reality where that actually matters because they're both perfectly built to yin and yang this thing. But at the end of the day, I think just based on size and some of the extreme feats that Ori can do, yeah, he'll just crush him. And I don't know if he can actually be hit by the knight. So that helps too. That's it. I'm just 50 seconds. You don't ever need to give me 60.
All right.
I'm concise.
From here on, never give Sam 60 seconds. Only 50.
can't he hit
all
him?
right.
Why can't he hit him?
Well, see, and that's one of the things where mechanically,
Yes.
Ori can do a like anytime any enemy or projectile is next to Ori, can do like a trade place in reverse direction and momentum of any attack. And so it is kind of a
like a Dragon Ball like teleport behind you, nothing personnel kid thing.
no, it's more like a lot. You use it to platform a lot. Like when a projectile will come in,
Yeah,
and like Ori will be like over here. You do this thing where you like stop time and then switch, and the projectiles like go the different ways.
And this works on enemies too.
Yeah, on enemies
Okay.
too.
Okay, great. How fast is Ori?
I mean,
Cat speed.
that's gonna be. It's hard to say because like one of the things I think of is like in the first game you fight Koro, this big owl thing, and the owl thing can fly and outrun the light. So
Like a beam of light, or just like brightness?
it's a brightness turning on, essentially. It's the light bulb turning on. In the
Oh, it's like
form
an
of a
actual
light
light bulb.
tree. No, it's a tree that
In the
like
form-
emits light, right?
Okay.
And you outrun the light as it's turning on.
Koro can like outrun the light, but like
Chat,
I mean, it's also in like
I want a
cutscenes
reference
and
on this
stuff
because
where it is.
I have never heard somebody call Ori Lightspeed with such like an obvious Lightspeed feat. No, I've only heard a hypersonic for Ori.
Yeah, well,
so I'm assuming that there's something a little bit more interesting with this.
You
if
can-
the feat is
you
as basic
can-
as he
you can
outflew
play
a
the
beam of
games
light.
and come at me.
I can tell
what's
you
your
for a
speed
fact,
for Ori here? Or what's your
well,
speed for the
I'm
knight?
not debating Ori. I'm debating the knight.
Yeah.
And the knight is can dodge laser beams from the Crystal Guardian within 2 frames. So it's not just a 1-frame thing where it's instantaneous. It is in fact 2 frames, which you can use that to measure movement. And they'd be at about the same speed of light, if not like relativistic, like a high percentage of it. Another big thing though is that they can turn intangible. So and they can do it anytime they want to. It's like a dash move. But once you like stop dashing, you reset. Once you like hit like ground, you reset. And then you can do it again. So the fact that he has that level of speed in a concrete actual feat way that isn't hopefully going to be elaborated upon, he'd be a lot faster and would be able to avoid Ori's attacks, like just turn intangible and phase through them, like he can do with light-based attacks all the time, specifically against the Radiance, who's the final
Which
boss.
I would say is like another thing of Ori is like it's hard to say because it is game mechanics, but there are like iframes, right? Which takes part in both games. So it is difficult to say. I do think though, Ori being likely thousands of times larger means
Thousands
it's
of
gonna be really
times
easy.
larger? What are you talking about? And wait, no. Let's be clear. Like, the smaller opponent is harder to hit, right? If you're smaller and faster and can turn intangible,
it's Ant-Man's
that's
whole
an
thing.
advantage.
Like,
The bosses you fight in Hollow Knight are also significantly larger than you, and you still hurt them. What's also, I think,
You do not
relevant,
fight anything in Hollow Knight remotely close to Ori's size.
I even if it's a cat and you're like a bug, and you're a bug that's big enough that like smaller bugs are still really small compared to you, so like a medium-sized bug, okay, twice the size of the Radiance. Like, what's the big difference there? I also want to point out. Well, yeah, I also want to point out that every time you, as a mechanic in Hollow Knight, every time you hit an opponent, you absorb part of their soul, and you keep absorbing their soul, and every time you hit them until they die, and you can use the soul that you absorb from them to heal yourself and actually fuel your magical attack.
What is the largest opponent that the knight fights?
Real quick, that I need SpongeGod to give me the reference, because SpongeGod said like multiple times that the knight is 3 feet tall, but I've been googling this in the background trying to find a source
a lot
for that.
of people want to say that.
I can't find it. So if you could give me the source, that would be great.
Source for that, and also a size reference. Cage in chat was asking, is there a size comparison for Ori? If we are going to bring size into this, like
Ori's actually just a bug-sized cat.
Yeah. Maybe we do need to sort of establish exactly how big they are. And I have seen some people in the chat mention like, well, in something like Aquaman versus SpongeBob, size didn't come into play. Does the size really matter? And honestly, typically in a death battle, size
say what you're about to say, Ben.
Doesn't always matter. It's how you use what you're given. But generally speaking, death battle size isn't always a big factor, because we often talk about characters that are just on such a level of power that them being human size or cat size doesn't really matter. It's just like for flavor at that point. But if we are talking about similar levels of strength, maybe size does matter in that regard.
It doesn't.
Being able to crush a bug under your paw.
It definitely doesn't, and we can get to that. I feel like I was trying to save that for like a later, like build up to that, but we can talk about power.
There's a difference between, I do think, like the knight's speed dodging something and the knight's speed being able to cover like a significant amount of ground, right?
Well, your crystal heart, you can fly with the crystal heart. You gather crystals around you and then you like shoot like a rocket. That's actually faster than your movement when you are dodging a beam of light.
But to gather those crystals and shoot like a rocket is not the fastest thing in the game.
Yeah, it takes a couple of seconds.
You go poof. Like
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like I wouldn't like describe it as like a game changer, but it is like a form of flight. You can rocket around the area, and if he's that much faster than he is when he's moving normally, then Ori's gonna have a hell of a hard time to hit him. He's also invulnerable when he does that, I believe. So you kind of just punch through everything.
Is he invulnerable? Because you can do it into some of the bosses and it stops and you take damage. So I don't think that's true.
If that's the case, okay. Well, then his body would impact Ori like a bullet and blow a hole through his chest.
Can you run through? Can you run through the general powers and abilities of Ori? Like, what does
Yeah.
Ori do?
Ori, so Ori has like is a forest spirit, right? And so a lot of Ori's like they have a sword that is like it is made of light and spirit energy. I guess they don't really explain it much, but like you're a forest spirit and you gain these abilities from like trees and stuff, right? So you have a light or a sword, you have a shuriken, you have a big hammer thing, you have spear things you can throw. Um, you also have like dash into people attacks, and that's pretty much the main like set of attacks.
Okay. And Hollow Knight.
You have a needle,
Definitely a lot
not a
more
sword,
variety.
mind you. You have a modified sewing needle.
No, you have a nail.
Doesn't hint at
not
all
a
at the
sewing
size
nail.
of a person when you have it. Okay, a nail.
They call
sure.
they call
okay.
it a nail. But there's nothing in the world that's like, oh, this level takes place inside of a giant boot. So that's the size reference we're talking about. It all is just a normal world with different ecosystems that you visit and different plants. Plants that would be significantly larger than you if it was an actual like if it was what's the word I'm looking for? Regular
Have you not
sized, or if
seen
you were
small
actually much
plants
smaller.
before?
I have seen small plants. I haven't seen flowers that are smaller than beetles.
I don't know.
I
You
have
remember
not.
at the end of Men in
I
Black
have.
when it pulls out and it turns out our whole universe is
Yeah,
just the
yeah,
size of a marble? I'm just.
Have you ever heard of how Fall Guys is a game show? So let's talk about the
I
knight's
was
weapon.
gonna.
So he
I
has
was gonna hit you with that one.
he has the nail, which is enhanced throughout the game to be sharper and
Yeah.
sharper and sharper until it's like perfect. You can turn intangible when dashing. You
Same for
absorb
Ori.
souls every time. Well, we keep going. You can absorb souls every time you're hit. You can use the dream nail to read minds. You can fly like a rocket with the crystal heart. As you have a resistance to mind control and corruption. And what's most important to the being of the knight, their unique physiology, is that the knight isn't technically a bug. It is the shell of a bug with what's called void on the inside. So it's kind of, you have to kind of talk about the lore of the world. So like it's a world full of bugs, and there are these higher beings, these gods that have fought for control over the world of Hollow Nest that you live in. The main boss, the main enemy, is the Radiance, which is this giant moth bug which controls light and is like a being of pure light. And then there's the Void, which is this, you go underground like really, really far, and you find this kind of like infinite like black sea of like this goo that has this combined sentience that
Yeah,
is this
typical
god.
Void. Got it.
Yeah, typical Void stuff. And
Yeah.
when you die, your shell breaks apart and it reveals what you actually are on the inside, with it, which is called a shade, which is kind of like your soul, but it's actually stated by Jin in the game that you don't have a soul. You are a being of void, and you are still alive as that shade. And in fact, when you fight the Radiance, your shell breaks apart, and or you're consumed by the shade inside of you, and you fight as a shade. And as a shade, you're not made of any sort of like physical material. You can be like physically hurt, but you can only be physically hurt by like, it's like Dark Souls when you respawn and you come back, and then you kill that shade and then absorb it back. But that absorption of the shade, that destruction of the shade, is unique to you. Like as a shade, its body can be broken apart, and like, because they have this attack where they slam into the ground and they explode apart into these little globs and they just reform. So effectively, if you're fighting an enemy that isn't the Hollow Knight or the Knight that has come back to like reclaim the void and absorb the void back into him, you can't really be damaged in any significant way, unless maybe if you were vaporized. But we can talk about power.
This has very little to do with the fight, but now I just have like a curious lore question. Is the knight actually hollow until you get to the bottom and you see the void? Like, game mechanics aside, I know you
No.
respawn and have it, but like
the idea of the Hollow Knight is, so the Hollow Knight is one of your, so okay, what the Knight is and the other children are essentially like abortions. they were like born from the Pale King and the White Lady in order to be used
The white
as a
lady, the
vessel.
flower quest lady.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's the big tree goddess.
Yeah.
She is, or they were born to be used as vessels to contain the infection, which is the Radiance is a god that used to be in control of Hallownest ages ago. The Radiance was forgotten over time and got mad about that. And then the Radiance lives in the alternate world known as the Dream Realm, and she essentially spread this infection to all the bugs living there through their dreams, which made them be like obsessed with light, like bugs to going to a bright light. And the knights were created to be used as vessels to house the infection. The Hollow Knight was the one that was the best, and the Hollow Knight is the one that was taken into the Black Egg Palace and then essentially absorbed the entire infection into themselves. But at the beginning of the game, they've started to like lose control of the infection. It's leaking out of them, and the knight has to come in and take their place, or do other things depending on the.
I know
Of
I'm drawing
course.
some real ridiculous threads here, but I feel like this is a game theory episode where is the void Gygas is a great game theory episode.
Well, the
but
void isn't really like. I mean, it seems pretty malicious, and when it manifests out of the night in full form when you fight absolute radiance, it looks kind of fucking mean. But the radiance is also like evil in the sense that it's driving all these bugs
Suppressing
insane,
everything,
in
yeah.
order to control them.
Yeah.
So how is Ori an existential crisis in
Yeah,
examining
yeah,
the
like-
human soul?
I mean, Ori is just a cute little like forest spirit. It's not as like the darkness is overwhelming. It's their forest. I don't think Ori has a gender. But like the darkness is taking over their forest, right? Because the big willow trees that like put out light like is sick. And you are technically a part of it, and like that's why you go and help recover it and make it better, right? Obviously the game ends in you doing good. So yeah, it is not as lore heavy in the sense of Hollow Knight, where it's just
isn't
like
Dark
Hollow Knight
Souls.
builds a
It isn't-
really I will say I felt like when the first time I played Hollow Knight, I felt kind of robbed of my own IP because of the way everybody talks is exactly how I talk to my dogs when nobody's around. Like it's because like
Bapanada.
yeah, exactly. Because like they're dogs, they don't understand. I just need to get the emotion across to them that I'm upset or happy.
Yeah.
So you just say gibberish to them. Anyways, yeah, I honestly, it is such a weird one because I did a lot of looking into Ori, and I did not, or looking into the Knight as well, and having played those games, I don't think there's a great argument for the Knight being a decent size. And I don't necessarily think there's anything that the Knight can do to kill Ori if the Knight isn't larger.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, we can talk
Well,
about
thanks
that.
for that
So s-
ray of light on Ori there, Sam. And that is perfect time for me to tell you about our sponsor,
Ray of Light, Raycon.
Raycon!
Oh my gosh.
Y'all, I have been excited about this ad read for y'all. I've been waiting to do this because I got my first pair of Raycons and I absolutely love them to death. Raycon is a premium audio at the perfect price point, so you can listen to the tunes you want where you want without breaking the bank. And they've got options, whether you're looking for a pair of everyday earbuds, low latency gaming headphones, or a speaker with a battery that will last all night at your next party. Raycon has got you covered. All right, so I got these bad boys right here, which are the everyday earbuds. Look at how tiny and portable this case is. It's great. Look at the earbuds. They are super comfortable, super slick. And so listen, I have put these things through the ringer. I was like, I want to know all about it. Let's like, they got 3 sound modes. There's a balanced, pure sound, and bass boost. And so I was like, all right, I listened to everything under the sun, and I was like, the options that you have are absolutely amazing. So I listen to like a lot of music, and I listen to a ton of audiobooks, which you guys know I'm a huge fantasy nerd. And I have fallen in love with these headphones because I love the balanced sound for like my music. And then the pure sound is absolutely perfect for like podcasts and audiobooks. If you've ever been listening to like an audiobook and there's something that's just like too much bass into it and it like kind of go, this absolutely solves that problem. These are incredible headphones. They're comfortable. I also use my headphones every night to listen to my book when I'm falling asleep, and they stay in my ear and they're super comfortable. So I cannot rave about these enough. And guess what? Raycon starts at half the price of other premium audio brands, so you don't even have to choose between 2 styles. You can get 2 different pairs and still pay less than what you would for some of the other guys. So, ready to buy something small with a big impact? Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/cast to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. That's buyraycon.com/cast. 15% off your Raycon purchase. If you're looking for headphones, go get some Raycons. These things are rad.
I have a pair that Raycon sent me, oh god, 4 or 5 years ago. Still going strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And they've done, I don't know.
They sent me these. They have a bunch of different colors too,
Yeah.
so you can choose between colors. They are really good. They are legitimately good. I also recommend Raycons, even outside of the sponsorship. They're really.
I don't think it'd be tough to find, especially for the price, a better deal on some headphones.
Yeah,
But
it's kind of incredible.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sponsoring us, Raycon. Again, definitely worthwhile. All right,
Hollow Knight's probably about the size of one Raycon earbud.
I imagine Hollow Knight is actually quite a bit smaller than.
So
Because
if he's wielding a nail or even
he's
wielding a
not
nail.
large.
Yeah, come on.
yeah, and like he's
Okay.
based on his visual design of his helmet is like a beetle, right? It's like a stag beetle. So just say he's about that size. I don't know, like definitely
the
not.
nail is not bigger than the knight, right? It
No, it's like a
functions sort
sword.
of like a sword.
It's a sword. Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
the length of. If you want to pixel check the length of, like, it is as long as he is high.
Well, this is going to be the end. Okay, the length of the knight. All right.
Yeah, because like his slash is in a longer attack radius than he is tall, I would say.
Well, you also can enhance it with charms. Speaking of charms, he has
does
extra
have
abilities
charms.
that you added with charms. Charms can normally only be switched at a bench, at like a checkpoint, but there's nothing actually in canon suggesting that you'd need to like do a checkpoint in order to switch them out. They're just little like badges, essentially. You have charms that when you get hit, they sprout thorns that hurt people, that whoever's close to you. That forms like a protective shell force field that fire sword beams that give you an infinitely filling soul, so you essentially never run out. A shield, an energy shield that like circles you and blocks stuff. A summonable servant, like the little demons from Symphony of the Night. Has a little, he has a little pitchfork and like shoots fire and stuff. And a chance of invulnerability on every time you're hit. It's kind of like a roll of the dice.
Yes.
Which are none of on their own, I think, are game changers, but I think they give him a lot more variety than Ori has. I mean, as I understand it, Ori is also, as a game, more about like maneuverability and sort of like parkouring around the environment more so than like
It's much more platformer than combat based. It is way more platformer. But I am glad you brought up the charms because, of course, Ori does have its own charms in the form of spirit shards. And one that I do think is important here is Thorns, which just deals back 50% of the damage dealt to Ori to anything that attacks it, right?
That's what the knight has with the thorns.
But my thing now is that Ori just needs to be 200% more durable than the knight and is unkillable by those standards.
Okay. Well, let's talk about strength. How powerful is Ori? You mentioned a forest.
What, a forest?
You mentioned it had something to do with like the light had something to do with the forest.
Yeah.
How powerful is Ori?
In without spoiling the end of like the second game, like because there is some questions about like ultimate power at like a peak of it,
multiverse or something.
I think durability wise is able to go toe to toe with a bird who can crush light in her claws.
What?
So that's
what is that?
So
what does that even mean?
I can crush light in my claws too.
Can you hurt light? Can you actively hurt the physical embodiment of light?
I am just wrecking these photons right
now.
now. I'm just demolishing them.
What is the context of light in Ori? Is it like it's the magic that gives life to the forest or whatever, right?
Yeah, essentially. So whenever there is darkness that hurts the tree, that brings all light to the forest, right? So in that darkness, uh, the light of the tree is split into like 5 parts, and that's the game in the second one and into the first one, really. But in the second one, because I think it's more important, you're stronger in the second one. And that's where this specific feat happens. Both times you're fighting mean owls, by the way. Um, and not like small owls, like owls that their wings break trees when they go through the forest and shit. They're humongous. So uh yeah, so you have this broken apart and you get all the light of the forest back together in this little orb, and I can't remember, it has a name, and it is like it's hard, it's light, right? It's like
So
a
is the
sentient
bird
light.
death? Like, is it like death killing life, or is it like just a magical light?
The bird does come through from Elephant Graveyard, essentially, from The Lion King, and is like born in the darkness. It's like if Bane,
Bane.
and Scar were a big
Not
owl,
Bane.
pretty much. Like that is essentially, it's got the mask and everything. It's good.
Sponge God
okay.
Omnipants also mentions, let's bring up that the owls that Ori fights are 20 times bigger than it. So that kind of goes back to my question about like, what's the biggest thing that the knights fought?
I want to bring up a comparison.
Yeah.
You're just not
This
going to talk
owl-
about with the large. Okay.
I already said the Radiance.
Just
maybe
gonna
the
ignore
Fluke-
my question.
Maybe the
Cool.
Fluke Marm. I would say something about as big as Ori, like the Fluke Marm, or and the Radiance isn't as big, like twice as big as the Radiance. But size is not really going to matter in terms of power. I mean, you can talk about there is a direct strength feat that you can scale to. The False Knight, which is this tiny little grub sitting in a big suit of armor, but is just a tiny little grub, can destroy one of the bridges that you fight on, and it's like made of stone. Now, if you want to say they're really small, it's not going to be like it's not going to be building level or whatever, but it would still be somewhere around wall level based on the size. Which, if we're just saying that Ori's a fucking cat that fights a giant owl, then is more than enough to do damage. But that's not where I'm going to stop. You said that this owl can crush light in its claws. The knight can crush the god of light in its black shadowy tendrils. You eventually enter the dream realm and fight the Radiance, who is the god in control of that realm, like literally physically in control of this realm. It is called the dream realm. It isn't just
Yeah.
a dream that they're having. It is described as an alternate world, an alternate realm, and its size is unclear. There is an atmosphere. There are clouds that go far into the distance. It is described as endless in size, and you defeat the god in control of it by manifesting. Well, and when you fight just the Radiance, you like become a pure void thing, and like tendril destroy it. In Godhome, which is a different realm, that's the same kind of thing. You fight the Absolute Radiance, which is the perfect form of the Radiance, and you manifest the void itself, like the full
Okay.
that full deity. Hey, let me finish.
Okay.
That is so powerful that it not only defeats the Radiance by completely consuming it, the void starts to fill the entirety of Godhome to the point where the portal that you use to enter it, which is like this like sarcophagus that you kind of teleport into, starts to like the entire area starts to fill up with void, and then the statue, which is in a different dimension, starts to like leak and pour void out of its eyes. So you have filled this entire dimension with the void, as well as defeating the god that is in control of it.
So the void like hurts the god while that's happening?
Yeah.
So-
it surrounds it and starts like clawing it to death and like rips it apart. and
Remember,
destroys it.
you're betting all of the respect you've earned with the audience on this one. Is Godhome, the expansion pack, 100% canonical?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. It's referenced in the game. There are items in the game that reference it. The little flower. Yeah.
So I will say there's something. I think there's somebody who said, I think even you'll agree, the knight does not have control of the void.
He has control of
Not in those moments when the void is doing that. I don't think the
the
knight
first
is
moment.
really doing
There's no
anything.
in the first moment. There's no debate. It's not the void. It's the knight. There is no. He doesn't transform his shape. He just becomes like his shade
Yeah,
and starts
yeah.
to grow tendrils. The second one is the void manifesting. You could debate whether or not the void manifesting at that moment is like whether
In-
that's outside help or
Yeah.
what exactly that is.
That's
But you still fight the radiance as purely yourself, and you
Yeah.
still beat the absolute radiance in your normal pre-void form. The void shows up to like finish him off, but you still beat the
Yeah.
radiance
Also,
as just the regular Hollow Knight.
the
Or the regular
radiance
knight.
the radiance, although it doesn't really matter for this argument, is like has been in slumber for a long time, right? I don't think that
Yeah.
actually matters at all. But
It's
in a
it
different
being a
way.
very
Say-
sleepy god, okay? Like God was very tired.
I think there's a weird delineation though when you have to talk about this, and in like I think it is just like a death battles rule thing where it's like, is the knight also the void? Because the void is not just the knight. I don't think you can
No,
say
that's true.
the void
That's
is
true, but
just
when
the
you
knight.
get the
And so
void
it is a
heart-
thing where it's like, can you attribute things that the void does, which the void is the one that in the end defeats the god realm and such like that, and actively fights in the other realms. That is the void winning those fights, not the knight.
The knight does win the fight. The knight beats the radiance. The void appears
Not in
to
the
finish it off.
dream, not in the dream realm though, right?
Well, they're both dream realms. The first one, it's just the knight. He just takes on his shade form, but he doesn't become the void itself. Also, you kind of are
But-
the void at the end because you get the void heart, which allows you to control and commit. Like none of the void enemies are able to hurt you anymore. They don't like attack you at all. You are like I'm trying to remember what the description is. It might
Yeah.
actually say something closer to
I
like,
just-
you are the
And I don't
void.
think this is like a determining factor. I just think it is interesting
Yeah.
that the void is not actively just the knight. The void is part of the knight, and the knight without the void cannot be its shade form.
Void heart, an emptiness that was hidden within, now unconstrained, unifies the void under the bearer's will. You
Okay,
control the
so-
void.
So yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
that's
the knight-
pretty.
So it
Pretty clear.
gives the knight powers of the void. Now,
Yeah.
something
Of a
something that
god.
keeps coming up, the size thing keeps coming up because I think the idea here is that the knight and just the world of Hollow Knight has these ridiculous, crazy things happening, but if it is potentially all on a very small
Yeah.
scale, the universe that's being affected here is a very small scale environment compared to whatever Ori is dealing with. And I could see this being an issue if we were to compare all this stuff that you've talked about with the knight to Ori. It would actually be much smaller than it sounds compared, like next to him and what next to them and what they're doing with the force and whatnot. I also want to make sure before we get into the final bit here, because we are getting close to the end here. Can these characters die? Because from my understanding, Ori as a spirit is immortal, right? They just always come back.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think there is a like
You
the
have to
games
destroy
do
all the
make it
trees
seem
or
like
whatever?
well, if you're well, no, not destroy all the trees, but if you don't actively restore the light to the forest, eventually everything in it, including you, will perish, right? But that
So
would
it is
require
a direct tie to the forest, not necessarily an inherent power of Ori themselves.
A real Ferngully
Yeah.
moment.
Okay.
yeah, a real
Hollow Knight,
Ferngully moment. Yeah.
The knight is directly tied to the void. It's not immortality is not inherently part of the knight's ability.
I mean, the knight is the void. Like like his essence is, instead of a soul, he is
The
is a
void
chunk of
possessing
void.
that carapace.
Yeah, that and even though that shell can break, and that's what counts as a death in game, your shade doesn't die. Your shade is just absorbed by. It's not entirely clear what the death mechanic is. Like if it's like your shell reforms back at your checkpoint. I think that part is kind of ignored. It's like not
Yeah.
as thought through as Dark Souls, but your shade is definitely not dead. Like your shade can exist and is alive on its own.
If you were to take the
Um,
shade away from the Hollow Knight world and throw it into a neutral zone, and you killed the shell or whatever, would the shade also die, or does it need to be tied to the void?
No, it would continue to. It it would be able to continue to fight as we see in the final boss, in the Radiance boss fight where it fights and defeats the Radiance.
And what can
on
destroy
its
the
own.
shade? Light?
The Hollow Knight can, because it absorbs essence, or because it absorbs the void, but its body can be destroyed and blown. It literally blows apart its own body when it does the smash attack, and then it just reforms. So maybe it could be vaporized, but I don't think it would be able to be like stabbed or like impaled in a normal way. Plus, and I want to address the size thing. I think that like the idea of the Dream Realm, no matter what, is going to be big enough in terms of scale in order to allow Ori to hurt or allow the knight to hurt Ori in a normal sense. But also remember, with each attack he does, he's absorbing a portion of Ori's soul until Ori doesn't have any soul left. He doesn't even need to necessarily be like cutting limbs off or anything like that.
It's just poking the paw.
You know, like, poke the paw. Give me some more of that stuff.
But so what you're trying to say for the universe stuff is like, even if this is Bug World and then they go into Bug World universe, Bug World universe is at least the size of a cat, right? Like
you see like clouds that go off into the horizon. Like it's still big enough.
I mean, touching on SpongeBob God Omnipants, also again talking about how it's still a real full universe. I'm more so saying, like, is the void really? Are these entities that the knight is dealing with something that is on a larger scale in their own world, or is it just this small little bug civilization that is impacted on it? And if you go like 2 feet to the left, everything over there has nothing to do with what's going on over here.
It's not clear. They talk about Hallownest, which is the civilization that you're in, but they also talk about how all the dreams of all bugs are connected. So, and that's are connected to play a part that are controlled by that. So it's entirely possible that, and we know that bugs exist outside of Hallownest because worms, which are like gigantic sandworms that one of them gave birth to the Pale King, who became the god of Hallownest. They're like gigantic and they travel. They're like, one came to Hallownest and was reincarnated as the Pale King. So there is a world of bugs outside.
There's a whole big planet. This is just a couple cities.
Side note, best part of the game was getting to the very edge of the map and being like, oh, I just want to go outside. Like, you get the tent. Oh, it's so good. Okay.
Okay. So I guess a lot of this is going to come down to how people interpret the world of Hollow Knight then. Because I could see this going both ways. I think there's still an interpretation to be made that it's all very small scale. But I can definitely see the argument that it is much larger than that. Okay, I think we can start getting to the votes here, starting with the answers that you all provided to us.
I will say it is maybe a slow non-combat process, but without spoiling the end of the games, for Ori, Ori does at the very end have the ability to, with its own light, banish darkness.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Those
kind of
are like very in-game words based on its lore.
And is the void darkness?
Yes, yeah, it is a force of darkness, but also the void defeats the Radiance, who is a god of light.
Yeah,
light completely consumes it.
In to be fair,
so we have a character that banishes darkness and a character that banishes light.
To be fair,
exactly.
In Ori, though, darkness is a bit of a byproduct of corruption hindering the light. Like, this is a weird verbiage thing, but just because I do want to be clear about it.
I mean, we're talking about
is what hinders the light and brings on darkness.
Kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
got it.
Key versus Nen or something like that. All right. All right, let's get to your guys' answers that you gave to us
I already know
before
how
the
this is
show.
go. I guarantee I know.
On the community page. Let's go ahead and bring up the first one.
All right, this one's from G for All. I got to give it to the knight for the sole fact that they have been beaten literal gods and Ori has not. Ori may possibly have the advantage in terms of versatility of abilities and in size, assuming the knight's the size of a normal bug. Ori, though, just hasn't killed anything nearly as powerful as some of the things the knight has, such as the Radiance.
I think there's a weird thing where you're just assuming God means very powerful because you're giving it like a Judeo-Christian value, and I understand that.
Endless dream realm controls the minds and dreams of all bug beings.
I mean, again, that's what I was talking about. Like,
can do that too, right? Like, it's not like godly.
Yeah, it sounds kind of
What?
impressive, but it might actually be on a small scale of
Yeah,
impressiveness.
it is. It is
Endless!
giving
It's
value to the
endless!
word God like that. I think might be a little like this
Bug
is
infinity is still infinity.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring up the other answer.
All right, this one comes from Teddy. I think Ori would win. They can do more damage, comparable to Cell, is faster, can create sonic boom. Oh, we didn't know. That's cool. Stronger, and they are more durable. The only way I can see the Knight winning is if it takes advantage of the fact that Ori's abilities take energy from. But that doesn't even apply to the Spirit Edge, so it's not a huge issue. Also, Ori has Bash, and the Knight is not able to attack while healing.
Not true. You have a charm that lets you turn into a little grub thing that lets you move while healing.
What was that? Spirit? What was that? Spirit something?
Spirit, like Sonic Boom,
Spirit
something, and then
Blade, I think.
What is the
Creator's
Spirit
like, oh,
Edge. That's your sword.
What is the Spirit Edge?
I believe that they're referring to your sword ability. It's called the Spirit Edge.
Okay. Is there anything special about the Spirit Edge that we haven't talked about? Is that
Not that
capable of
I can
banishing
think
darkness
of.
by
Like,
itself?
I haven't gone through respect threads. I just played the game. This is an OG one off the dome here. There might be more that people have read into it that I don't understand on that side. But the Spirit Edge, as far as I'm concerned, is just like, yeah, it is a blade of light you get from sucking in some tree juice.
Chase, thanks for the
Yeah,
gifted
dude.
membership.
Yes. Okay. F you, that's my username says Liam. Endless can just mean really freaking big, unless it logically cannot be anything
No,
but infinite.
endless means without end.
Well,
We can break out.
you
very-
could argue that from a bug's perspective,
Yeah.
anything is endless.
Even visually, there are clouds. There is a horizon. There's a vast horizon in the distance.
Well,
But
yeah,
that's
I mean, there's
not-
people like
That's
that's what you
bigger than a
You
cat.
can be like, oh, it's the endless sea. We'll never be able to cross it. But then it turns out, oh,
Yeah.
It's, no matter what, it is bigger than cat.
Yes.
Cat,
No matter-
Sure.
not as big as
But-
that. Oh, what are we fucking debating that?
Yeah.
That the Knight is the size of a fucking molecule?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
No, but if you are like, that Lion King
Just
moment
stop.
where he's like, as far
Just
as you can
stop.
see, like for a bug, as far as you can see is like right over there, guy. Like,
motherfucker, there are clouds.
Chat, please let Liam know what is endless that without being infinite.
am.
Sponge God is
my
mentioning the
fucking
ocean is endless, but it's not infinite.
My
Actually, that's
hatred
true.
is endless.
Endless could just
The ocean is not
like it
endless.
loops in on itself.
There's
Yeah.
No, the ocean is
not
not
endless.
The ocean is endless because it technically loops
My
into
hate.
itself.
Show,
Also,
hate
show me
for
the
this
end of the
last
ocean.
minute.
Show me the end of the ocean, Liam.
Nitpick
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah,
is
where does the
endless.
ocean end?
Also-
Liam? Where
I'm
does
gonna
it start?
shove
Where does
an
it end?
ocean. So far, I'm not gonna.
it is a realm that has volume. It is.
If it's the size of a fucking ocean, it's big enough to hurt Ori.
Bigger than the cat.
Okay?
I get it.
It's bigger than a
Sure.
fucking cat.
Technically, like a ring of flowers is endless because there's no
Yeah,
start.
yeah,
no
exactly.
I
end.
think
Swallow-
Ori's probably closer to a meerkat, but we don't need to talk about this.
All right, let's go ahead and get to the votes. We will be starting with the
Laughing.
poll from the community tab from earlier. Let's go ahead and bring that up. See what the first vote is going to be.
Man,
Yeah. Okay.
significantly the night.
Oh yeah. This is gonna
86%.
be. This is a. Yeah.
I don't
guaranteed.
know why. People love Ori.
Not as
Like,
much
why
as
did-
they
why
like
is-
Hollow Knight.
Hollow
Okay.
Knight is a combat game. Ori is not as much of a combat game as far as I'm aware. So I could
Okay.
see that.
That actually
apart.
was surprising. Like that was
I-
really lopsided. It didn't make any sense.
I
Yeah,
still can't
let's-
believe Sam didn't even bring up the argument about how heartless it would be to kill a cute cat.
How heartless would it be to kill a cute little bug?
Oh,
There are
yeah, we
millions
kill
of
bugs all the
bugs.
time.
There are
Void?
trillions of bugs.
To
Yeah.
kill the bug that you
Look at how
did say
sweet
was a
he is. His
mass
little
of
cape.
abortions
His
earlier.
little
To
sword.
kill,
Ooh, ooh.
kill that?
Okay.
We want to keep going on this
I'd
tangent.
step on it.
Probably not.
Going off of that, all right, let's get to our votes. Chad, what are you thinking?
This is actually really interesting, and I would love to do this as an actual episode, because I think there's going to be a lot of stuff we really need to rip into.
We all wanted to, and then the community said no fun for you.
Well, we can still do it, as we've mentioned before.
Yeah.
But you know what? I just don't want the cat to die, so I'm going to vote for Ori.
Okay, so we have
Because I'm
one
torn.
for
Like, it's
Ori
this is
and
light
one for
versus
Knight.
darkness, and like I don't.
If I've
Yeah,
ever heard stories about light, have you played Kingdom Hearts? Let me tell you,
Use
light
dark
wins.
mode
I,
on your
I
phone,
think
Chad?
I think getting into the difference, going into like magic systems and how they compare to each other can always be really complicated for a death metal type of thing. Because how do you compare world settings to each other? It's far easier to just compare like characters to each other, right? World settings get so complicated. So how the light differentiates between each other in each world, the darkness differentiates between each other, might have a big impact on how this would play out. And that would require far more than just an hour's worth of discussion. But just based on what we've talked about, I think I got to give it to the knight. I think I'm going knight.
Oh, like
So
like
it's 2 for
nighttime.
Knight, 1 for Ori.
There's a dark thing. There's a dark connection there. That might have been intentional.
I will say,
Might also not have been. I don't know.
Is Ori light in some language? No.
I don't
okay.
know.
One for Ori, 2 for knight. All right. That's where we're at. Let's go ahead and get to your vote to see who is going to win this matchup. Go ahead and end the poll. And we'll go ahead and get that up on screen in just a minute, but we do have the results here in the chat, and the knight wins 72% of the chat.
You
poll,
convinced
which
some
means,
of them, Sam.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's less votes for the knight than the community poll, but it does mean that the knight wins with 3 votes to 1. So congratulations.
Look
to
it
the
up,
knight.
please, Liam.
Congratulations
2
to
in a
Liam.
row. 2 in a row.
I've had a losing streak. That is 2 in a row is perfectly acceptable. Perfectly kosher. I'm withholding my joy.
Well, congratulations, I guess. I actually think that this is the more I heard
it's
about
interesting. There's a lot of
it, the more
stuff,
interesting it is,
and
yeah.
I think it would be fun to dig into. And I think there's probably some way, like, because it is weird in a world so small like Hollow Knights, but in a world where you see so little outdoor things, like, I mean, you can make the same argument that there's nothing in Ori's world to base it on, like, because obviously you can look at him compared to trees and other like human-based creatures in the thing and say, oh yeah, he's about like meerkat size, easy. But you could always make the argument that like we have no real, it's not like he's next to a human American automobile where we can like say,
well,
you know,
I get you, but also Kage did a fun thing and compared him to a squirrel in the universe, and if the squirrel was like 9 inches, then like Ori would be about a foot tall. Anyway, I just wanted to shout out that quick math earlier.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the same size as a thing called Moki, which are like just very much meerkats in the game.
Can I just point out that both of our mods are saying Liam is winning too much. Time to humble him.
I am going to go bat shit.
Man, shout out to our mods. They're doing an excellent job. I love it. All right. Thank you everybody for tuning in and for voting, and also for suggesting this matchup back for the ballot when we were doing that thing in the Discord, which we
want to do it
again. We plan to continue doing that as Death Battle goes on, and we have been looking at those suggestions throughout the ballot suggestions for a lot of these Death Battle casts.
I would say, I think Silksong, the next Hollow Knight game, might give us a more interesting character that has more defined limits.
Well, Hornet has a character.
Is it a different?
Yeah, but
right. It's
that's
a
what I'm
different
saying.
character.
She's not. She isn't the Void or anything that's like this, like unsubstantiated like being. So I think
she is
might
a literal
be,
child of.
Yeah, she might be a more interesting. She's strong enough to fight the Knight, which says a lot. But
she's your rival character, kind of.
She's like friendly rival.
Yeah, friendly
Hornet?
rival.
Yeah,
Hornet.
And Silksong.
Oh, that's the one
is
with the longer.
She's got like a red coat,
the helmet or whatever. Yeah, red.
Yeah.
Cool.
And she literally has the sewing needle like on a thread, and like
she does actually have a sewing needle.
Yeah,
and it uses its string. Yeah,
that's what. Okay, that's what I thought it was a needle. All right, cool. Yeah, well then maybe once that comes out, we'll re-examine this and see if maybe there's even more we can do with it. What a cool matchup! I love it.
We can't hear.
Yeah, she's a dirtbag dog.
Oh, it's that one.
Look at me like that. Son of a bitch.
Dogs baying is so great. Even though if you hear a dog baying in the woods, it's like I'm fucked. I'm gonna be
No.
hunted.
This one's just an idiot. We taught her not to
Wow.
bark, not to not do that. Apparently.
That's okay. Mike, it took Mike forever to learn how to bark, and instead he would just scream.
Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah, he like that. Like it just like it's the worst sounding thing. Anyway,
Real quick before we wrap up, I do see some people asking about season 10. Yeah, we will be talking more about season 10 as we get closer to it. It will probably start a little later than like usually we do the first episode in like March. Might not be in March, might be a little later. But we'll give you guys a heads up when we can. But it is coming. Don't worry about that. We are very excited about. We have some very cool episodes planned. We've already announced some of them, and we are very. We've been working on them for a while now, and we're very hyped about it. So we really hope you guys enjoy what we're working on when it does come out. It does take a little bit of time because it's Death Battle. We got some cool animations to make and a lot of research to do. But we're very excited about it.
Yeah.
All right.
It's if you've seen it, not the easiest show to make. Hard to believe. I know. Insane that would be the case, but it does take time.
And also, 2 of these episodes that we're making this year are the ones you guys voted for. And we want to make sure we do those right. Like, we don't want to rush anything.
I thought you were going to be like, so it's your fault. No, just...
Yeah.
And they're taking forever, so screw you guys. No.
Now that we have to make these characters based on these old dead franchises.
No, we really want to make sure that we make the episodes you guys wanted to see when you voted for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we'll keep you informed. So just stay tuned. We will have more information sooner than later for sure. All right. As always, be kind to others, be kind to yourself, be awesome, and we will see you next week. Take care.